In this video, we're going to take a look at volume, and what volume is. Volume is the measure of the space inside a solid figure. Now, just like with surface area or finding area of a rectangle, we have a formula for volume, and the formula for volume is you need to multiply the length times the width times the height. And to abbreviate that a little bit, we just write V equals L times W, and it is important to put your parentheses here. Signify that you multiply that first times the height. So the formula for volume, L times W times H. Now with volume, it's always important to write out the formula first. You always want to write out V equals L times W, put your parentheses, times H. Now after you've written your formula down, now it's time to fill in the numbers. Now we're not going to get too concerned on what is the actual length, what's the actual width, what's the actual height. It's just important that you include all three measurements within your formula. You're going to multiply all three measurements by each other. Okay, so we'll start out with the length. So I'm just going to write or a number that would represent the L. So we'll have 6, okay, times the width. What we will do there, just write 4. We're not going to get too concerned on is that the actual width or whatever. We're just going to plug in numbers here, times 3. Okay, so that's the first step. Now for the second step, I'll change my ink here. Okay, so what I'm going to do now, remember order of operations, you always multiply parentheses before anything else. So 6 times 4, that's going to give me 24. Then what I will do, I will just drop down my multiplication sign and my 3. Okay, now it's time to multiply 24 times 3, and I can do that right on my calculator. 24 times 3. That gives me 72. Now I don't have to do that 2 times because those were just 2 numbers. If it's 3 or 4 numbers you're adding or multiplying or whatever, you like to do it 2 times. But 24 times 3 gives me 72. So I will write that 72. Now it's important to remember to label it correctly. Meters cubed. Okay, so volume deals with cubic units. Think about how many cubes you can fit inside this rectangular prism. We can fit inside 72 cubic meters inside this rectangular prism. So that is how you find volume of a figure. Okay, so I'm going to do a couple more problems for you, then I'll have you join in just a few moments here. So once again, we have a rectangular prism. We're going to find the volume of this prism here. And first of all, we want to start out by writing V equals L times W, parentheses, times H. So we'll do that. And then now we're going to start plugging in numbers for our formula. Okay, so I'll make sure I'll write my parentheses. I'll just write 5.5 times 3 times 1. Okay, as you can see, it's probably better to write 5.5 times 3 first and then your parentheses so you don't run out of room like I almost did. Okay, so the first step, 5.5 times 3. Now this one can be a little tricky. I have my calculator. I'm just going to plug it in. 5.5 times 3 equals, so 16.5. So 16.5 times 1. Now this is pretty simple. 16.5 times 1. I'm not going to need to type that into my calculator. That's pretty easy there. I'll just rewrite the answer, or write the answer right underneath this. 16.5 times 1, or 16 and 5 tenths times 1 is 16 and 5 tenths. Make sure we label it correctly. Yards cubed. And that is how you find volume of this rectangular prism. Okay, now what I want you to do is get out your math journal, your pencil, and a calculator, and I want you to do this problem along with me. So I will give you time to pause the video and come back and work alongside with me for this problem. Okay, now that you have everything with you, we're going to do this together. The first thing I want you to do is write V equals L times W times H, just like I have right here. I want you to do that before you do anything else. Now, what we will do, we're going to start plugging in numbers for our formula. So you will write V equals We're just going to do 10. This is a cube that we're looking at, so all the measurements are the exact same. So 10 times 10, we'll write times 10. Okay, that's our first step. Plug it in numbers to our formula. Now our second step, we're going to start multiplying the two numbers that are in the parentheses. 10 times 10. I don't really need my calculator for this one. 10 times 10 is 100. If you wanted to use your calculator, that's completely fine. And we'll just rewrite the number we have not used yet, times 10. Okay, now it's important to remember, if you want to use your calculator for this, that's fine. But now we have 100 times 10. Remember, anything that you multiply by 10, you always just add a 0 to the end of this. So we can plug it in our calculator. 100 times 10 will give me 1,000. Or I just know this one, that whenever you multiply any number times 10, for example, 6 times 10 is 6, you just add a 0 to the end there. So we have 100 times 10. And 100 times 10, we're just going to add a 0 to the end of that 100. Gives me 1,000. I need to label this correctly. 1,000 centimeters cubed. It's important to write that cubed up there representing volume. So that is how you find the volume of a cube. Okay, we'll do one more together, then I'll have you try to do one all by yourself. So we have volume. Once again, we're going to start out by writing volume equals length times width times height, just like I have right here. So I'll give you time to do that now. It's important to always plug in this formula. Then after that, you can just plug in numbers to the formula. It's always important to write down that formula. Okay, now that we've written this down, volume equals, we're just going to write 2 times 3.5, put our parentheses here, times 6. Once again, not getting too concerned about what's the volume, or I'm sorry, what's the length, what's the width, what's the height. Just important to include all of our measurements within our formula. Alright, now that we have this written out, we're going to start multiplying. So we're going to first of all start out by multiplying 2 times 3 and 5/10. Now, whenever we have decimals, it can be a little tricky, so if you want to feel free to use your calculator, that is fine. So I can just type in 2 times 3.5 equals 7. So I'll just write 7, and then I can bring down my 6. So now we have 7 times 6. 7 times 6 is a basic fact. You should not need your calculator. If you want to double check it, that's completely fine. However, 7 times 6, I know is going to give me 42. So we can write 42. It's important to label it. 42 what? Inches cubed. Remember, we're trying to figure out how many cubic units would fit inside this rectangular prism. So we have 42 inches cubed for the volume of this rectangular prism. Now I'm going to have you pause this video, and I want you to work out this problem all by yourself. And then when you're finished with it, press play, and you will have all the steps written out in front of you with the answer. So I want you to pause the video now. Okay, here's the correct answer with all the different steps that you should have taken to come about getting the answer of 64 inches cubed. Remember, it's important to label it with inches and also the little 3 representing cubic units. So that is the answer, 64 inches cubed. If you have this one correct, congratulations. If you missed it, I want you to double check and see, what went wrong, and hopefully you can find your mistake within this problem. Now, just like the previous problem, I want you to do this one all by yourself. I want you to pause the video and work this problem out. And when you're finished, press play, and I will have all the answers along with the steps right in front of you so you can double check your work. So I will have you pause the video right now. Okay, so here is the answer for this problem. We have 1,012 and 5/10 millimeters cubed. So we can see that that is the correct answer. You can see all the steps that I took in order to get this correct answer. I want you to double check. Hopefully you did get this correct. If you did get it correct, congratulations. If you missed it, make sure that you look at my steps and see where you messed up. Maybe it was your multiplication, maybe you forgot a step, so just double check and see where, what went wrong. Okay, so good luck with volume, and make sure with volume, once again, do not worry about multiplying and figuring out what the length, width, and height is. Just make sure that you're multiplying all three numbers by itself. So this is how you find volume. And please come and see me if you have any questions about this concept. Best of luck with volume.